Okay, so let's start.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hello, Ashley. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I wanted to start with your upbringing a bit.
Yes.
I was reading that when you were 3 years old, you tried to play your dad's guitar.
I did.
Do you recall that moment? How was that?
I remember the spanking that followed. I was disciplined for it pretty harshly because they were nice guitars. So I would try to stand them up like a upright bass and play them. And that's not, of course, the proper way to hold a guitar. And so they would spat my hands or my legs and, no, you can't play those. They eventually gave me a mandolin to play instead because it was, small and a little more my size.
But I believe that, so you were raised, you were born in a musical family because there was...
Yeah, I grew up going to bluegrass festivals and my dad played guitar. One of my older brothers played guitar. We can all sing, but I'm the only one that still does.
So it was more than natural that you tried to follow this path. And also, I was reading that that at some point your parents decided to give you a guitar because you were...
Yeah, so I figured out how to play the mandolin and got okay at it for a kid. And I was 9 years old. My dad took me to a music store about 10 or 12 miles away from the farm and handed me a little, like a 3/4 size guitar. So it was still a smaller scale. And he said, see if you can figure out how to play that thing. I sat down and started playing it. So when we left that day, I handed him the guitar back to put away. And he's like, no, it's yours. And that was the beginning of, I would say the beginning of the end, but that was definitely the beginning. I haven't been bored ever since.
Did he teach you how to play, or you were self-taught?
Kind of both. He taught me my first 2 chords, and then my grandmother taught me a third. And growing up in a bluegrass world, you have access to all of these guys that are masters at their instrument. And so I would go and sit, even as just a little youngster, in these jam sessions after bluegrass shows. And I could, tug on somebody's shirt. Hey, how do you play an F? They would show me, like, all right, hold your hand like this until we get there. It was a good way to learn.
So since you were a teenager, you wanted to be a musician.
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to music school?
I did. After high school, I went to Arkansas State University to study music. I was a French horn major, and I loved it. I love studying classical music. It's pretty important, especially to me now. I wish I'd appreciated it more then, the way I do it now. But playing guitar and writing music and playing French horn and studying music never crossed for me. It never translated one to the other. So I really enjoyed my time in the symphony and the orchestra and all that. And I'm proud for the theory that I got to learn. But it never crossed over into playing guitar for me.
So, how has this playing classical music influenced your music now, or not really?
Well, it makes me appreciate different things. Country music and bluegrass, a lot of improv is involved every night. And in classical music, it's all precision instead of improvisation. So it gives you really appreciation for both, being able to make something up on the spur of the moment that sounds all right, and also the kind of dedication and practice it takes to do something that's very precise.
Okay, I understand. I was also reading that when you were at the university, you had like a moment when you were getting less and less shy of presenting yourself to the public. Was there a specific moment or situation when you realized, well, I need to let this go because I'm going to be on stage if this is what I want to do?
There was a weird moment. I would party with this group of people in Jonesboro where I went to school, and they would do karaoke and stuff at night, and I never did participate. I was just there to study music, and I was pretty shy about the fact that I played guitar and sang. And I was at a basketball game where I was conducting the pep band. So I'm this guy, right? It's time for the national anthem, and they radio across, hey, our anthem singer didn't show up. Can anybody in the band sing? And I was like, I can do it. So I went down to the middle of the basketball court and sang the anthem. And those people that I'd been hanging out with all this time were there. And after the show, after the game, they were like, you sing? Like, I do. Do you do anything else? I was like, yeah, I play guitar. They were like, from now on, it's live karaoke. We're just going to stick Ashley in the basement and name songs, and she'll play them and we'll sing them. And that became me knowing this humongous list of cover songs. And then it wasn't too long after that a friend of mine was like, you know what you should do? You should go play in the bars in Memphis or something, just to see what it's like. And I did. I started out in coffee shops in Arkansas, and then a couple of bars, and then I moved across the Mississippi River over into Memphis and started playing in bars.
How old were you?
I was too young to be in bars. I was like 20, maybe. 19, 20.
But once that got going, you were like, this is it.
Yeah, I knew this is what I wanted to do for a living. And even though sometimes I'm still pretty shy because I was just such a shy kid, it's hard to overcome. But I've really worked at it. Stage fright was never a problem. In fact, as long as I'm doing music or doing something that has to do with music, I'm pretty okay. But take a guitar away from me or try to make me hang out in a pub where there is no music, like I'm very shy. So I think music, playing on stage, has really helped the other part of my life.
How did you deal with, how did you work with stage fright?
I would just say, just do it. It can only go really well or really poorly. There's nothing to be nervous about. It's one side of the coin or the other. And you're going to shortly find out which one it's going to be. So you go out there and you do a song, and if it falls flat, all right, try something else. And if it doesn't, then great, keep going in that direction.
And do you feel any difference from that moment when you were starting? So I imagine that the crowds were smaller than they are currently, but the stage fright that you felt, is it related to how big the crowd is, or isn't it? I'm in dive bars for 11 years, and and if I felt like no one was listening, I would close my eyes and go, it's an arena, it's an arena, it's an arena, or it's an amphitheater. Just tell yourself that and try to put on the kind of show that a theater would require. And that's how you overcome the nobody's listening thing. Well, then we got on the road with Hank Jr. and Chris Stapleton, and we went from playing 2,000 cap rooms to 23,000. I mean, it was within a week. And so here I am at this amphitheater opening for Chris Stapleton, and my mom asked, she said, how did you do it? How did you go from small crowds to big crowds? And I said, I just closed my eyes and went dive bar, dive bar, dive bar, dive bar. Just the only thing you have to do is put on that show. So it was very strange to flip over from imagining it to the bigger one and switching it to the smaller one. And how do you feel nowadays, given that you had one song selected by the New York Times last year as one of the main songs of 2017.
Yeah.
And you've also performed with Eric Church.
Yes. Good grief.
So it's a long way from dive bars to being a rising country star. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. It's really humbling, especially for somebody like Eric to tell me he's a fan when couldn't be more backwards. I've been a fan since college, and I don't know. It's there's a lot of growing pains involved with it. A lot of things that I have to get used to.
For example?
Like, I don't ever know what's going on anymore. I have to ask my tour manager, like, what time things are. I'm used to controlling everything and driving myself, and now it's just not that way. I don't know. It's been a really cool process. It's kind of mind-blowing. I stop myself a lot and go, is this real? Is this real life right now? I'm about to sing Proud Mary with Eric Church. Like, cool. It's fly by the seat of your pants all the time.
So I'd like to talk a bit about the lyrics in your record, in your new record specifically. Yeah. Well, you write a lot about love songs, about love. So, for example, American Scandal and also A Little Dive Bar in Dahlonega.
Yes, you pronounce it better than people in the
Dahlonega.
Yes.
So, any of these songs, were they influenced by your personal life, but by a personal event that happened to you?
Yeah, Little Dive Bar in Dahlonega is actually, the chorus of that song is the true story of how Jesse Rice, one of the co-writers on that song, met his wife. And on the day we wrote it, I'd had a really bad morning, and it was only 11 o'clock. I mean, how many bad things can happen to you before 11? And I got there, and then my good friend Nicolette Hayford, who I also wrote the song with, came in, and she had an even worse day. She had been with this guy for 3 years and then suddenly was single that morning. So that was a rough morning. I was like, all right, your morning's much worse than mine. And then Jesse came in, and I don't know if he hadn't been to bed or if he had slept in his clothes, but it looked like he had really slept on the sidewalk. And he said, he's like, I lost my phone last night. I dropped it in the toilet at a bar, and I just, it doesn't work. I didn't know where to be. And so I said, we're having such a bad day. Let's not write a song today. Let's just get together and drink beer and talk about what a crappy day this has been. And through all three of us talking, he started telling us this story about the worst day he'd ever had when his car broke down outside of Atlanta, and he pulled off in Dahlonega, Georgia, and wound up meeting Kendra that night at the bar.
And they are still together?
Yes, they're still together. They're married.